Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin and with me as always is the deranged cat and my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
Well, that's interesting. The base answer is not a lot.
Right.
And it gets a bit more complicated from there.
Okay.
So, the coronavirus, right? It exists, it's sweeping across the world several times over. Everything is not great on that front. The vaccine is happening and having...
It is?
Varying effects. But here in Tasmania,
Yes.
we've done pretty well. There was the cluster up in the northwest, some people died, and that was about it for
Well,
coronavirus
That
in
was about it
Tasmania.
apart from those 13 people. I think it was 13.
Yeah,
I think-
that was about it for coronavirus in Tasmania. Occasionally you'd have some people come in from elsewhere in the country and they'd have the coronavirus, and so down would go the numbers. But as of today, it has been 208 days since there has been any coronavirus detected anywhere in the state.
Yes.
And almost a year since any community transmission occurred
Yes.
in the state.
Yes. Are you going to drop a bombshell that I haven't read?
No,
Oh, good.
not that sort of
Oh,
bombshell.
good. Oh,
Not-
okay.
Not
Thought you
not
were gonna
a
say-
not a bombshell where there've been cases. No.
I thought you were going to say someone's come across Bass Strait in a little tinny, which is Australian vernacular for a small aluminium dinghy
No.
with an outboard motor, with the family because it's school holidays.
The good news is I'm not going to say that.
Right, good.
So, in Tasmania, we have a check-in app.
We
For-
do.
Various venues. And up until today, the way that check-in app has worked is that certain venues are required to have you check in if you are there for longer than 15 minutes.
Right, yes.
So if you go into, say, KFC and want to get a go bucket and then leave very swiftly, you can do that, and
Right.
you don't have to check in. It is now July the 7th, and that is no longer true. If you enter a premises
Yeah.
that is required to check you in, you must check in, which is a problem for me because I have not had a functioning smartphone in half a decade.
Right.
And I don't want to go through the rigmarole of signing in through paper or talking to people, because talking to people is hard.
Right.
And then, from the end of the month, the list of venues that are required to have you check in increases
Yes.
to, say, shopping centres and all sorts of other places, which I will, I guess, no longer go, which means that the not doing a whole lot seems to be continuing
Right.
for some time. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
we will find out.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to be blindsided by this
Fine.
this first world problem during the podcast, but we can find a solution for that.
We can.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, not great. I feel like I'm being punished for following the rules and nothing going wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
Just a bit. The reasoning given is that the Delta variant, as it is so known, it seems to be transmitted by brush-past interactions, and that's not great. But also, it has been 208 days since we have had any coronavirus in the state.
Yeah.
But
It is all very well to lock the gate after the horse has bolted, though.
But the coin flips. It could be worse. From an Australian monarchy to an English queen, and suddenly over in the UK we have Boris Johnson announcing that despite the fact that the coronavirus is still rampant in the UK, and despite the well-documented effects of long COVID, all coronavirus restrictions are just going away at the end of the month.
They're just going to go away.
Yeah. And any deaths that happen will just have to be dealt with. That's something that Boris Johnson actually said.
Yes. That being said, their vaccination program has been somewhat more efficient than our almost non-existent promises are better than...
You know, there was
been vaccinated. Well, I haven't been vaccinated. I do have an IOU slapped to my arm.
So there was an election recently in the state, and both parties fairly reasonably fumbled the ball all the way through the election, and eventually we ended up with the same result as we went in with, and that's fine, and we've managed pretty well with the vaccinations. Per capita, we're only behind the Northern Territory, last I checked. But nationwide, the ball has been dropped quite significantly.
Well, again, it's a case of the ball was promised to be picked up, but was never picked up. It hasn't been dropped, it's just never been picked up.
We had...
Oh, there's the ball. We promise we're going to pick up that ball. We will pick up the ball. Have we got mighty plans to pick up the ball.
Yeah.
We've signed papers that will pick up that ball.
We had grand plans of producing AstraZeneca here in Australia, because we had the capability to produce AstraZeneca here in Australia. And then we did a little... And then it turned out that it wasn't great for everyone. For, say, young people. Not great for young people.
Well, statistically not as good as certain other options that we also were made promises that we were getting, but they haven't eventuated
didn't get them.
Either. Yes. This has become a soapbox, Thomas.
What? This soapbox has suddenly appeared underneath my feet.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, while I go and put this soapbox away, what have you been up to?
Look, I'm still blindsided by this broadside of... yes. Okay. I should point out that I for one, feel that the necessity for signing in wherever you go is a good idea, but there are certain flaws in the system, and that being those who do not have the technology available to them to do so. There are other options available, but they are far more problematic for those who suffer from social interaction anxieties and
not having the spoons.
Not having the what? Right, good. I'm sure everyone's Googling that now as to not having the spoons and the relevance of cutlery in the conversation that we're having. But anyway, what have I been up to? Well, it's the fortnightly. I've been and donated blood, and in doing so, I scanned myself in to say that I was there, and every other place. I don't know. I'm a bit flummoxed, actually. We are in the middle of school holidays, so this episode is taking a slightly different format. We are again recording during the day, and there are certain other of the fruit of my loins floating around the house who have expressed some limited interest in actually watching this film as we watch it. So they're going to watch the film that we have scheduled for this week with us, and I will probably as I usually do, get a score out of them for what they thought of the film out of 5, I think. Do I score them out of 5? 10.
It's been 10 for
It's been 10.
a decade.
7. I get them to score out of 7.
Yeah.
That way you can have a nice, clean midpoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
You only need up to 7. Anything else is irrelevant.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. I've been watching the Tour de France. That's been...
Hey, no, sorry, you handed over to me. Completely hijacked this entire podcast.
I had this grand plan that I was going to end on the Tour de France note, and then I didn't. Because you brought up the soapbox gag before I was ready.
Oh, so you're just grabbing now. You're just grabby.
I'm grabbing at whatever I can.
Okay, good. Yes, there are men in Lycra.
Yeah.
Who are falling off and getting wet and getting exhausted
And because we're not recording tonight, I'm not going to miss any of Men in Lycra climbing a mountain twice.
Yes. That is the actual reason why you decided, yes, recording today rather than this evening would be a better option.
Well, it's also a fairly long film.
Just to get your daily dose of Men in Lycra. I'm not even going to go there. All right, so...
Yeah.
What is it that we are going to subject ourselves, pointing out that this was your choice, and in prolonging the pain and agony, we're going to subject other offspring to today.
Yeah, we sure are.
Yeah.
This is the 2007 Michael Bay film Transformers.
Good.
Yeah. Which if those words don't fill you with dread, I don't know what will. No.
And spoilers, after inviting said kidlets to watch this film, they are all over the age of 15.
Yep.
I suddenly remembered a certain scene in this movie involving a parental discussion about what a young man is up to in his closed bedroom.
Uh-huh.
So... And it was quite a lengthy discussion that, from my recollection, I have only seen this once, but I thought, well, that was from left field, much like your attack, your brutal attack on the the state of play in Tasmania concerning the COVID sign-in. So, yes, for those of you who have been living under a rock, what is this film about? Other than being a ploy by Hasbro to revamp the sales of little metal and plastic, I think they're predominantly all plastic nowadays, toys. And what is it all about? Except that the description is very short and really doesn't tell you.
Well, the description on Just Watch is a little longer.
Okay.
And isn't self-congratulatory.
Oh, okay.
So there we go.
Would you read that one instead then, please?
Young teenager Sam Witwicky becomes involved in the ancient struggle between two extraterrestrial factions of transforming robots, the heroic Autobots and the evil Decepticons. Sam holds the clue to unimaginable power, and the Decepticons will stop at nothing to retrieve it.
And that's what the deranged cat thought of the whole concept. I might have to amplify that just... Yeah, that's certainly more descriptive.
I am told that this is the least bad.
I am inclined to agree. That being said, I haven't seen possibly the last couple.
Right.
And I'm assuming that the least bad is not taking into account Bumblebee.
Which is...
I quite like.
Is ambiguously continuous.
Yes. All right. Without any further ado, we're going to stream that on one of the plethora of streaming services that it obviously didn't cost them very much to purchase the rights for. Everyone's got it. Everyone's a winner. So I'm not even dragging the disc out, which is on the shelf. We're going to drag the other kids in to suffer through it. I mean, enjoy it. And we'll share our comments afterwards if either of us can get a word in edgeway. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
Transform into the other part the other part of
No, it's Transformers Move Out, isn't it?
This podcast is a robot in disguise.
Yes. And there's absolutely no turning of side Bs.
Go away for 15 seconds and then come back.
Okay.
We'll be here.
Yep. So, what did you think?
Okay, so visual effects, very good. It's a very good-looking film. The sound design, top-notch.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
Visually, apart from the effects, does suffer from that early to mid-noughts yellow and high contrast.
Yeah. Crush the blacks.
Yeah. The music good.
I don't know whether that had anything to do with. I honestly don't know what was used to film this, but if it was filmed with early digital rather than film, that may have entered into that.
And the plot is terrible.
Yep.
It's not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
And neither is the acting.
Oh.
Or any of the sorry, the characters are not written well.
No.
They are not given good material.
No.
Everyone who should be competent in this film is not.
Yeah. I confess, I do not know what your history is like with the franchise, as in its origins from a Saturday morning cartoon to sell toys.
My history is cultural osmosis, Bumblebee,
yep,
and today's viewing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so looking at your list, okay, so visually, absolutely, the effects have stood up incredibly well.
And I think part of that might be not animating humans.
Yes, yeah, and that was going to be my next step. There were so many shots that you felt like the humans were in the midst of everything. Whereas films later on, not necessarily this franchise, but you do get that feeling of a disconnect with, they're not really there. There were so many times where Sam was in the thick of it, and it felt like he was in the thick of it.
Yep.
And you could see the Transformers in behind him, and so there was green screen going on and things like that. But it was done just so solidly well. There were only a few occasions where I felt, no, that is not going on at the same time as this is going on. There is a composite going on here. It really stood up. That being said, I think a lot of that had to do with how short the shots were during those scenes. And this has always been my sticking point with Transformers. It is just cut so quickly, and cut so quickly, not necessarily in a sequence that makes any sense. So I'm constantly not sure who's fighting who, and where things are coming from, and wasn't that... you just, for me at least, I lose complete track of where anyone is and who anyone is fighting, and is that a good guy who's falling out of the sky, or is that a bad guy falling out of the sky?
If they're colourful, they're probably good.
Yeah,
but sometimes they're not colourful.
Yeah,
and so it's difficult to tell them.
There's so much explosions and dirt and dust going on that it just becomes a blur fest. And so, there were whole segments of it, even though I was in awe of how, at ground level, the humans I felt were in peril. You know, the suspension of disbelief was strong enough for me to feel that. it was just so messy otherwise that yeah.
That highway scene, how confused can you get going down a straight road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I was pleasantly surprised at actually how much I did enjoy that. The second, I came into this with a great deal of cynicism, and some of that sort of washed off a little bit. It is not a good film.
No, it's not.
But there were certainly sections of it that demanded staying on the shelf, even though, that segment is well and truly gone. There is just some really, really amazingly good stuff in it. And for that, I eat a little bit of humble pie, as far as me dreading what we were going into. And yet, you could have slashed half an hour out of that.
Yeah.
There were some really, really boring bits.
Yeah.
Even in some of the action shots. This is just going on for too long. And nothing is progressing by having it go on for so long. But it wasn't just overdrawn action bits. There was also some talk fest bits that and characters that didn't need the one-dimensional characters didn't need an extra 0.1 of a dimension added to them. Yeah.
On the one hand, you want to see the robots fight. On the other hand, you want plot.
Yeah. And there's only so much forgiving that you can give to the fact that, hey, this is a film based on a kid's toy-selling franchise.
In recent years, we've had some great stuff based on toy franchises.
Yeah.
And this ain't it.
No. But again, I want to hate it more. As I say that, I should mention that, okay, so 3 of the kids, other than Thomas, sat through this, and the youngest being my youngest son, who's 15, and his comment was that he... Well, what did he say? I know what his score was, but
it was bad, but he enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I think was
the
gist.
It was bad, but I enjoyed it, and he gave it a 9. And I'm not going to condemn him for that because he's the target audience, really, even though it skews off into that really awkward... Am I making too much of a thing?
You're making too much of a thing of it.
Okay.
It was awkward, yes.
It was an awkward attempt and I know what the director was trying to get at, but it was, again, ultimately, it slowed down the pacing of the story, I thought. But
nothing became of this. We didn't interact with the parents again for the rest of the film.
No, and that, again, that whole during that segment where the Autobots are outside the house, that whole scene went on for too long, and the whole parents accusing the son of slowed it down.
There is a good scene in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just obscured by nonsense.
Yeah, and it just really, really slowed down the pacing. Okay, so my 15-year-old son gave it a 9. My 17-year-old daughter also gave it a 9. I was watching from behind, and she was just absolutely loving it. And again, I cannot condemn her for that.
I feel like almost everyone in the room knew it was a bad film and enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah. To close off things, 20-year-old son gave it a 7. But I think he enjoyed it more than he was expecting. I think, did you enjoy it more than you were expecting?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if I gave it a score, and I don't give things scores, it wouldn't be in the 7 to 10 range.
No.
It would be down in the middle area.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
not good.
It's not good. And the other thing that I need to let go is the whole sense of matter. Where a vehicle that's fairly small suddenly becomes a robot that is incredibly large, and the maths doesn't add up.
Yeah, that weird little spiky bot.
Yep.
It's a relatively normal-sized head, and now it is a phone.
Yeah.
It is a small flip phone.
But that also happens in the cartoon series. And do you mature it up and then alienate your original target audience, who have now all grown up? I don't know.
Yeah.
I missed out age-wise of the obsession with it. I certainly had interactions with kids who just absolutely thrived on it, and I babysat, in quotes, babysat. They were tweens who had numerous of these toys, all of them, and knew their names. And during the closing credits, the 15-year-old son was saying all of these crazy names, but not appreciating the fact that in the cartoon series there were so many of them, so that you could have so many toys, so that you have the sales. And but that target audience of the cartoon series that I babysat, rows upon rows of these little toys, and would bring one to me and say, look, I can't put this back together. And so I'd be sort of, oh my goodness, it's just so complex how some of these things folded up. So they, I guess, shot themselves in the foot a bit with the whole matter reduction and an increase in that. Except for the fact that there was a ghetto blaster, not quite as swish as the one that was in that show, that would fold out, and I'm not sure how large that became in the cartoon series, but it was again a case of that doesn't mathematically make sense. But for all that Shia LaBeouf has copped over the years since, in a lot of ways I wish he hadn't grown up. The films that he made at that age, and a bit before, I can't remember where this comes as far as Holes is concerned.
Let's see, Holes was 2003, so 4 years prior.
Okay, he was great in that, and he was ideal in this for playing the age, I guess, that he was portraying. He was possibly a little older than the age he was portraying by then, but I appreciated his performance in that.
He's just not given a lot to work with.
No. And how do you work against... just Michael? How do you work against Michael Bay? I guess is the question.
Don't give him work.
But I very grudgingly say he still has a place in things. It's creepy that I went into this just, oh dear. But most of my oh dears at the end of it were the boring bits and the confusing bits, my head not keeping track of things.
Yeah, the writing is either boring or bad or both.
Yep.
Like I said, there are characters who should be competent who aren't. We have Secretary of Defense, we have the leader of this secret government agency, and they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea.
No. And I can't even. My memory's already fading. That they had the Australian girl.
Yeah.
Ultimately, was she necessary in the plot? He was an extra character, and her tag along was an extra character, and
it added a plot line that you could just go around, and nothing would have changed.
Yep. And you read time and time again of characters being completely edited out of a film, and that could have been done. Not that she was particularly bad, or her assistant was terribly bad. It just made the film even longer.
Yep.
So I'm still dazed and confused as to the outcome of that film. As you do mention, his history and critics suggest that it just goes downhill from there.
Yeah,
I think I only have the next one on the shelf. I don't have any of the others, and I don't know. I can't remember whether I've seen 3. I don't think I've seen 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, or 9.
I'm probably gonna end up watching the rest in my room, even though I know it's not gonna be good.
I know. I think I'm gonna have to too.
It's going to get worse, and I'm still going to do it.
Yeah. Oh dear. Do you feel dirty?
Ugh.
It's like being caught in your bedroom by your parents.
Ew,
are you watching Transformers? Oh, Mum.
Yes, I am. What's your problem?
I don't watch Transformers. All right. Do you have anything else you wish to add?
No, I think that might be it.
Shall we move on then?
Please move on.
Good.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
It's my turn.
It is your turn.
Okay. A couple of episodes back, I mentioned, I guess, did I badmouth Wall-E, or did I just...
okay.
So I'm just wondering whether we should just bite the bullet, because it was suggested that, and it is on my list of films to rewatch, whether we just jump in next week and watch Wall-E.
I have no opinion on this choice. It is entirely up to you.
Okay. It is on both of our lists.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let's go for that, shall we?
Okay.
Those of you who are unaware of the film that we're planning to watch next week, this is the expurgated version of what's on the back of the case. I'm going to remove the self-congratulatory and directed bys and... Okay, so this is the plot synopsis for Wall-E. After hundreds of lonely years of doing what he was built for, the curious and lovable Wall-E, waste allocation load lifter Earth class, discovers a new purpose in life when he meets a sleek search robot named Eve, extraterrestrial vegetation evaluator. Join them and a hilarious cast of characters such as M.O., Microbe Obliterator, on a fantastic journey across the universe.
Right.
Good. We hope that you can join us next week when we watch the Disney Pixar 2008 Wall-E. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye. You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
Okay, so this is the the plot synopsis for Wall-E. After hundreds of lonely years of